Good morning, traders. Welcome to Trading Together. I'm Mel Gacee. Today is Friday, May the 22nd. How's everybody doing today? I'm so glad to have you here joining me. I'm so glad it's a Friday, and here we go. Let's take a look at what's going on in the market. But before we do that, let me tell you a little bit about this space, okay? I created this space to help traders of all levels. This is an educational stream, and what I do here is I take trades live. I'm a day trader. I'm a scalper. What that means is I'm in and out of the market very quickly. I'm day trading what we call zero DTE. That means I'm trading 0 days to expiration, or in other words, today's options that expire today. I'm in and out quickly. I'm a licensed Series 7 stockbroker. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and this is my jam. This is what I do for a living. And so this space is designed, number one, to be a place of learning and community. And number two, I'm teaching you how to step through this idea of trading. And I'm going to do it from my perspective and my strategy, which is day trading and scalping. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, you're in the right place. This is a friendly interactional place. So join in with your questions and comments. Let's get to know each other. And I'm here to help. Okay. All right. Looks like Gaia Body is here. Happy Friday to you as well. All right. Well, I do hope everybody has got some fun plans this weekend. Usually where this is the weekend where pools open and the grills get fired up, and that is so lovely. I hope everybody has time to enjoy their friends and family. We're not going to be here Monday. I'll be off doing the same thing, but also just want to take a minute to remind you that Memorial Day is about those that have given their lives for this country. It's a little bit different than Veterans Day, where we honor our vets. This is where we honor those who paid the ultimate sacrifice, who made the ultimate gift, and that is they laid down their lives. So I do think it's important to just take a minute and remember that and honor those that have fallen, regardless of how you feel. Politically, we do still have to recognize, I think, that there are those who have laid down their lives, and it's important to honor that sacrifice. So keep that in mind this weekend as we enjoy the freedoms that we have. All right, Gavilan is here. Good morning, Gavilan. And let's take a look at what we got going on here. We are climbing. We are in a bullish environment, even though we opened up pretty bearish. Take a look. We're starting to get a V-shaped recovery here, which is what I've been looking at for a while. I think that all of the signs are there to maybe climb today. We're just shy of an all-time high. We're shy of by about 30 points. So I think it's really easy to jump up there and grab 30 points, hit a new all-time high. That's very possible. The volume is also telling us that that is a high probability. So let's go take a look at volume. Now, volume can be measured in a couple of different ways. So, and I look at volume in a lot of different ways. Volume here across the bottom, this is measured by time, volume by time. So as of this moment, 11:06 Eastern, this is the volume measurement for this moment in time for the whole of the SPY. Now, there is also volume in terms of price. So if we zoom out here, I have another volume indicator that I use that shows us volume by price. You see it here. That's these blue lines. They are going across and telling us where volume sits for the price that's being traded. So this level right here, 74.64 on the ES, is so far the highest volume price that's been traded today. So it's different than time. This is volume by time. This is volume by price. The other place I look at volume is actually on the option chain. So over here, this is our option chain for today's expiration. And we can see that there is, I keep my I keep my option chain modified to include volume and open interest. This right here tells you how many people are trading this particular strike, this particular option, right? So what we see here is right now at the moment, the highest volume is sitting at 749 on the call side. Sorry, excuse me, is that 750? That's 750. 750 is our highest volume on the call side, followed by 748, then followed by 747. Then our put side, our highest volume is sitting at 745, followed by 746 and 747. So those are a couple of different ways I look at and use volume. When the volume is kind of skewed over there on the call side, we expect possibly for the market to head in that direction. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to do that because volume can shift on an instant. Very, very quickly, volume can shift. If they choose to dump this down 40 points with some big red bar, all of a sudden you're going to see that volume whoosh, just flip. It's just going to do a U-turn there. So we can use volume, but we have to remember it's a very fleeting indicator. It only gives us a brief snapshot, and it doesn't give us a directional target for the whole day. I mean, sometimes it does. Sometimes those volumes hold up all day, and that's where we go, and that's what happens. But other times it can just flip on a dime. So I use it as a secondary indicator to just kind of give me a feel for where we might be going. And so right now, everything is telling me we might be going up. So we are up about 37 points from yesterday's close. We're sitting real close to where we opened. So let's come over here and see where we've been this morning. So we came into the morning right here at this level. We're just a little bit over it. We came straight up. We hit a high. And then guess where that high was? It was just a couple of cents right under the 7,500 mark on the SPX. And then we retreated pretty significantly, came all the way down here to our high of day from yesterday. We pierced that, and then the bulls said, nope. And then we started to begin this V-shaped recovery. And that is exactly what it sounds like, exactly what the name is. It's a V shape, right? So we're coming down, and now we're bouncing up. That's a V-shaped recovery. We have other indicators telling us we could be moving up today. So that's something to be aware of. The other thing I like to look at is, I call it the leaderboard. It's nothing more than a watch list, but I keep on my watch list several different things that I look at. So I'm always looking at the Magnificent Seven, and we talk about that a lot on this channel. That is a collection of the top 7 tech stocks out there. AI stocks, you could call them tech stocks. Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, Google, Tesla, Nvidia. You could also count Broadcom. So these are the big, massive titans. These guys are the Hercules of the market. You can see Hercules, right? And when he's holding the world on his back, or maybe that's Atlas. That's what these guys are doing. They're holding the market on their back. 7 stocks are literally holding this market up. And that is why a lot of people are saying, are we in a bubble? Is this similar to the .com craze? It kind of is. It kind of is. And I tend to agree that, yeah, we could be in a bubble. We could be fixing to go the way of the .com bubble, which popped and came down almost 50%, lost almost 50% of market value after the .com crash. So I tend to think we are in that type of overvalued bubble-like scenario. All a company has to do nowadays is put AI in their name, and poof, like magic, their stock goes crazy. This is not dissimilar from what happened during the .com craze. That literally all a company had to do is put .com in their name, and they went crazy. Their stock went nuts. So there are a lot of similarities And I'm not calling for, I'm not being a Debbie Downer. I'm not calling for, a massive crash, although I think it's possible. I'm not saying where the top is, although I think we're close. I am saying it's very possible. There are a lot of similarities here. In the meantime, we trade what the market gives us. We trade like water. That's the idea. We've got to trade like water. Put your bias to the side. Put your bias to the side. Don't trade your bias. Don't insist on it, because guess what? The market is always right. And if you insist on your bias in the face of something different from the market, it's going to eat your lunch and the market's going to humble you. So remember that. As one great trader said, it's okay to be wrong, but it's not okay to stay wrong. You don't want to stay wrong. If you're on the wrong side of a trade, just get out and get on the right side. All right, Guy is here. Good morning. All right, so we are just barely climbing over this VWAP here. We're not going super far, super fast, but we are slowly but surely climbing up. Now our VIX over here is kind of, let's take a look. Let's zoom out. It's kind of been giving us this push down. Now, what it did in the morning was odd, right? It climbed with the market. So you can see we got this climb right here at the open. The VIX did the exact same thing, climbed at the open and then began to drop with the drop. And then it kind of flattened out, and then it got got with the program. So started to come down as the market rose. Now remember, the VIX is the volatility index. It is an index, and it measures the fear in the market. It does that by going out and looking at the options on the S&P 500 index a month out. It goes out there, it looks at where are people basically placing their hedges, placing their bets, and it tries to gauge what kind of fear, what's the sentiment of the market. So it's also nicknamed the fear gauge, right? It goes out there and it measures what is the fear in the market. As fear rises, the VIX rises. So as fear rises, we would expect to see the market decline. And almost always, this is the relationship that VIX has to the market. It's inverse. VIX drops, market climbs, VIX climbs, market drops. When the VIX acts in sync to the market, something's up. You gotta be aware. Someone's not telling the truth, as I like to say. Someone's not telling the truth. Usually, it's the SPY who's not telling the truth, but sometimes it's the VIX. So VIX got on board over here, started dropping down, and now we're kind of flattening out. Even though the market is kind of still, looks like it's still slowly rising, the VIX is kind of flattening out here, right in this area. All right. Hello, Craig. Good to see you. So let's zoom in on these last few minutes, and we can see, looks like the VIX is kind of building a bit of a bottom here at 1659, giving us a teeny flat, slightly upward trajectory, which is a little bit different than what we're seeing in the market. The market is giving us a slow, very slow climb, although we can see a little top maybe starting to form here. We're also pushing up on our overnight high. That is that's the level that was the highest in the overnight session. That is the highest point that we got to in the overnight session. That's what I call the overnight high. I mark those every day. Overnight high, overnight low, yesterday high, yesterday low. So right now we've been doing this climb for quite a while, since about 10:24. So almost an hour we've been climbing, very slow, just excruciatingly slow. If you've traded this climb, I did trade a couple of calls here. It takes a long time to get any money out of it because it's just so slow. But here we are, climbing for an hour, touching almost the overnight high. So right now we are making a V-shaped recovery. And like I said, all the indicators at the moment are pointing to an upward movement today, bullish momentum. Okay. Bear Palm is here. Good morning. Val is here. Hi, Val. All right. So as of right now, no trade for me. Check out the itty bitty little bars on the MACD. When you see this, this is basically zero momentum. The other thing to look at is this volume. Do you see it? It's just almost nothing, right? Here's a different volume indicator over here. Let me make this a little bigger so you can appreciate it. This volume indicator it's called the volume average. You can find it on Thinkorswim. I don't know other platforms. I'm sure this is a very simple indicator. I'm sure you can find it in a lot of places. It basically is showing you the volume. We talked about types of volume. This is the volume by the time value, by the minute in this case. And this yellow beige line is the average for the past 50 periods. So what do we see about the average volume? It is shrinking, declining, while the market is moving up. That is a price volume divergence that usually results in a change of trend. And the other thing we can see here is the volume is trending below the average. So as the average is trending down, the volume is staying beneath it. Almost no volume here to speak of. Very, very little volume. Now, again, remember, volume can switch in an instant. We can see this grow and just spike up like it did over here. Huge spikes up. We can see that happen instantaneously, and all of this gets turned on its head. So it's really only good for kind of a snapshot evaluation. All right, here we are at the overnight high, testing it right now. The last time we were here was first thing this morning. We came up over it. We got up to this point, 748, and then we reversed. So let's see what we do here at this overnight high. We've got the VIX telling us it's sort of saying we're moving up, but check it out. It's really holding this bottom here. Do you see it? Where I'm lining my cursor up, there is a strong bottom forming here. The VIX needs to drop down through that. Oh, there it did, right there. Okay, so there's a poke up through the overnight high with a little drop on the VIX. Could we consider some calls here? It looks like the MACD is brightening up a bit. Our RSI is pretty elevated, so I'd be cautious. RSI kind of sitting at, got as high as 70 right here on this candle. So RSI is a little elevated. I wouldn't trade the call here. It's just a little bit too, it's just been going on a little bit too long, this move here. Not to say we can't go a whole bunch higher. We really can. Remember, the all-time high is sitting overhead by 27 points. That's nothing. That's nothing. They can do that in one bar if they choose to. So that's, there, like I said, several factors kind of pointing us upward. We've got the overnight high. No, we have the all-time high sitting right above us. We have volume pointing upward. We have gamma pointing upward. So there are a lot of things kind of saying, yeah, we could be moving up there. So at this point, we're getting a little slow down here at the overnight high. Like I said, I'm not going to trade the call here. I'm going to give this some time to reverse. And it may not reverse. It may just give us like a little pullback, and that's fine. We can trade a pullback if we're pretty convinced that we're going up. I'm going to take a quick look at gamma. Gamma was surprisingly positive today when I looked at it earlier. Very surprisingly positive. So according to my gamma, I use Cheddar Flow. According to Cheddar Flow, We are sitting in $6.7 billion of positive gamma. That's really big. That's really, really big. So when we're looking at that level of positive gamma, again, remember, gamma can switch on a dime. It's the same as volume. It can flip a switch. But as of right now, that's an extremely high level of positive gamma. So adding to this kind of bullish thesis. So we've got the V-shaped recovery. We've got growing volume overhead. We've got huge gamma. We'll be watching. Tatiana, good morning. And Dan is here. Good morning. Happy Friday, Tatiana. All right, so we could be getting a little bit of a pullback here. That doesn't mean we switch directions. It's just possibly just a little pullback. VIX is giving us a tiny climb here off of this bottom. VIX is down in the 16s, and we do need to go and look at the daily on the VIX because that's a low that we haven't seen in a while. I've talked about it a lot. We've really spent a lot of time in the 17, 18 zone on the VIX. So this is kind of a new low. We hit 16, I think, a few days ago, but basically, by and large, we've been sitting at 17 and 18 on the VIX. So this is kind of a bit of a change to that. Now, here's a pop here on the VIX. That would say we might be getting ready for a little bit of a pullback. Let's see what happens. We're getting a reaction for sure off of this overnight high. So far, we're not beating it. We beat it a little bit over here, like I said, shortly after the open, and then rejected. So here we are again, right at that overnight high. Let's see what happens. No trade for me at the moment. Not trading calls, not trading puts. We need to see a change in direction for me to consider a put, and we don't have that yet. We do have a MACD rolling over, but again, tiny bars, and we've got green candles, and we've got a slowdown right here. So you can't just trade the MACD all by itself. You've got to look at the surrounding factors. And a really important one is looking at levels. This is an important level so far today, so we're going to pay attention to that. All right, there we go. It's getting a little bit brighter here. VIX moving up just a little bit. Yeah, still making super teeny bars on the MACD. And these bars are created, they are measured by the distance between the two lines. There's a MACD line and there's an average line. The average line is just an average of an average, and the MACD line is a little bit of a faster moving line. So it is the blue line is the faster moving line, and the beige line is the average of the MACD, right? It's the average of an average. And as these, let's make this bigger, as these lines create space between each other as they move apart, the bars on the MACD reflect that. So this histogram is an exact representation of the distance between these two lines and also the direction. So when the blue line is below the beige line, so when the MACD is below the average, we get red bars. When the MACD is above the average, we get green bars. And then the distance between the lines tells us the momentum. So as these bars grow, it is telling us we are gaining in momentum, either direction, right? You can see how tall these bars got during the drop, right? Look how tall those were. That's telling us that there was a good bit of momentum behind that, and volume kind of backs that up. When we get these teeny bars, we've got very little space between these lines, and that's saying there's not a lot of momentum behind this move. Now, does that mean we can't make money on it? No, we sure can make money on it. We just have to be a little. So it is still climbing, and that's what is said today, that this could be a bullish day so far. So do we need volume to make money? Nope. Nope. Do we need momentum? Nope. We sure don't. We can make money. Made money on this climb, and I did. I took a couple of trades along this road. Just takes a little bit longer. All right, still climbing. Very slow push up through the overnight high. And where did yesterday's high of day go? Down here. So yesterday's high of day is a good bit below us. We have bounced off of that and gotten this upward movement. VIX gave us a new low. And remember, the overhead target is going to be the all-time high. That is the overhead target. We got as close as 74.99.4, so almost 7,500, shy by about 60 cents. And then we got that reversal. That was this one over here. We're just about to hit that. So 7,500, once we push up through 7,500, the all-time high will be in sight. Are they going to play games, dance around it, move up and that's usually how they do it. But right now we're on the slow, steady climb to 7,500. We've got about 4 more points to hit it. And our leaderboard is telling us, ooh, Tesla still moving up, 2.6. So Tesla opened the morning at almost 2% up. It's still continuing to climb. Apple's still climbing 1.9. Oil also climbing simultaneously. That's a bit of a red flag. We don't want to see oil climbing with the market. Magnificent 7 ETF up 0.5. Meta up just a little bit, 0.4. Microsoft just at its flat line. Who's bringing us down today? Google down just a little bit, just at its flat line. It's not pulling anybody down. NVIDIA down about 0.7. That's about it. Everybody else good and green today. And here we are still climbing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 green candles in a row. Slow and steady ascent. We are just about to hit the 7,500 mark. Let's see if they dance around it or if they push right on up through it. All right, little slowdown right here. VIX gave us a bit of a push. We got as high as 97, almost 98 on the SPX, and then again starting to look like a bit of a reversal. Let's see what happens. Could just be one of these little pullbacks before they continue the climb. All right, Dan. NVIDIA calls averaged, like your example yesterday, May 26, 225 calls averaged 65, now at 48. All right. That's not good. If you're in NVIDIA calls, I'm confused. Oh, NVIDIA is dropping. I'm sorry. Yeah, NVIDIA is down 0.7. What's your expiration? May 26th? Okay. All right. Well, good luck, Dan. I hope it works for you. All right. No drop yet. Just a mini little pullback here. Look how close we came to this high right here. So here's our most recent high. They could just turn and continue to push. Let's see what happens. We were getting a bit overbought there. All right. Still showing a little weakness right here, but we haven't dipped below the overnight high. In at 127 when I thought that would break out this morning, then at 35. So I'm just trying to break even at 65. Okay. Good luck, Dan. I hope that that hits for you. Let's take a quick look at NVIDIA real quick. You got in this morning at the open, maybe in here. So it looks like it's given a little climb here off the bottom, kind of like what we're doing on the SPX. Okay. And you said you're in the 225 calls. Let's look for 226, 526, 225 calls. So those are sitting at 50 cents on the bid. Not bad, Dan. Not bad. Hopefully you can catch that. It needs to move up to maybe 222, 223. Is that possible? Let's look. I think if it gets up, pretty close to where it was at the open, you might be okay on that. And don't be afraid to take a smaller loss on an average trade. I don't know how big your position is, Dan, but if it's big and it's going to hurt, it's better to take that, take the loss, if it moves up and you even get close to your break even, it's not bad. Obviously use the charts to tell you, but if you're in a huge position, it's best to take a small loss and preserve your capital. However, I will say, all that being said, we are at this moment in a bullish regime. So hopefully we can get NVIDIA to cooperate. I hope that works out for you. All right, Craig, is there a way to tell the rate of volume growth for puts or calls? Somebody asked me that yesterday, and I wish that there was a way. I imagine we could write a think script for it, measuring volume. The best way I know, and it's not for puts or calls, it's this here, this volume average. I love this volume average, but this is of course by time. For puts or calls, I'm obviously just checking it visually. So I'm watching these numbers visually. Now, is there a way to maybe write a think script on that? Yeah, there might be a way to do that. And I'm pretty sure there is. But is there something existing right now? I don't think so. I don't think there is anything existing that could tell us that right now. The other thing that shows us, it doesn't really show us rate of change, but if we do look at the volume profile, you can see where it starts, where they start growing. So, if you kind of keep an eye on this profile, you can sort of see where volume starts jumping out. You'll see it jump out at you. You'll see it start moving. Right now, we've got volume sitting at 74.39 and 74.27. That is a long way below. Now, of course, that's a 5-day chart. So I want to move this to a 1-day chart. We've still, even on the 1-day, we've still got a good bit volume, a good bit below us. So something to be aware of. Most of the volume is sitting below us. Yep. Interesting. Okay. Great questions. You know what, Craig? There's another answer to that question. Velocity. There's a velocity indicator, and that has to do with volume. There's a velocity indicator on Thinkorswim. Velocity and acceleration. This is a pretty cool indicator. I like it. It captures momentum, and it's trying to evaluate trend strength. The study is calculating how quickly a price is moving and the rate at which the price movement is changing, or the acceleration. So that's not exactly an answer because you're looking for puts and calls, but this can tell you by price, what's the level of acceleration here, which can be helpful. I just threw it on here just to look at it. Okay. So we're moving and we're getting a little move up here on the VIX. We haven't broken down through this overnight high. So that's what I'm watching. Again, it almost wants to look like a double top here, doesn't it? See it? Top here, looking like a double top, but we got to be careful with that. Double top is a very bearish pattern. So let's watch and see. We got a lot of things saying we're bullish today, but this is definitely a bearish pattern. We would need to see it beat this top in order to prove that this is not a double top. We're not dropping too far, so there's something to be noticed there. We haven't dropped below the overnight high. All right, so long, slow ascent here. No trade just yet. Now, if we break out through this top, I might consider a call, even though this has been long and extended. If we break out through this top on volume, I might consider a call. If we lose this top and start coming down, I would consider puts. So right now, it's of course doing nothing but sideways. Our VIX is telling us that we're moving up. We don't know that yet. We got to watch. Guys, I think I finally got rid of my squeaky chair. I didn't have any WD-40, and I'm not the handy type at all. I did go find some olive oil and a spray bottle, and I sprayed my chair. So far, so good. So there you go. How's that for being? I'm not hearing that stupid squeak anymore. That was making me nuts. That bothered me for weeks. SF girl. Hello, SF girl. I use olive oil. Yay! Okay. You know who else used olive oil? Sophia Loren. That was like part of her beauty regimen, was she used olive oil on her face, which I think is amazing. All right, Craig, why did you not take a put at 1141? Let's see here. 1141 right there. Well, a couple of reasons, Craig. Number one, because we had not broken the overnight high. Number two, we were making more sideways pattern, even though it did look like it was coming down. It was looking a bit sideways to me. So for all those reasons. Number three, we are clearly in a bullish uptrend. So for me to take a counter trend trade, such as a put at this point here, I would have needed much more confirmation than this. I would have needed to see this break of the overnight high. I would have needed to see a very clear downward movement, and we just weren't getting that. We weren't getting strength in any kind of, no real downward strength there at all. So that's why, Craig, I will always be cautious when the move is counter to the trend. And the trend right now is clearly up. Yeah, you're welcome. Great question. So what I was trying to figure out here at that moment when I was talking out loud is what I was trying to figure out is, are we making a double top? Are we? Right now, not really. We hit the top and we're moving sideways. So the next thing I expect is either for it to break down here or to push up. If it starts pushing up, I might, like I said, I beat this high. I might consider the calls here. That high, by the way, is going to be right in line with 7,500 on the SPX. And that in my side view mirror, you can see it on my chart right here. Make sure my face isn't in the way. Right here, this is 7,500. This is going to be pretty much in line with this top here. It's going to be right there. So we need to see that give us a strong push before I would take any calls. And if we're going to drop, I want to see us drop down through this overnight high on volume, on strength, and we're not getting volume or strength right now. Actually, in either direction. Oof. I hate to notice it, Dan, but it looks like NVIDIA is dropping. I'm sorry. Hate to see it. Let's see what the Qs are doing. So I've been watching lately QQQ and NVIDIA for direction. NVIDIA just lately because of earnings, and the Qs I do watch for direction a lot because here's the main reason. The Qs are the ETF over the NASDAQ. This is just like the SPY is the ETF over the S&P 500. Qs are the ETF over the NASDAQ. That, remember, the NASDAQ houses tech stocks. That's all it does. NASDAQ is tech stocks only. And so with the S&P 500 now being controlled by over 40%, it's the weight, it's called weighting, right? So the S&P 500 holds 500 stocks, but 40% of its weight is contained in 10 stocks. These are the major tech stocks. So when tech moves, the NASDAQ moves. When the NASDAQ moves, the S&P 500 is going to move because 40% of the S&P 500 mimics the NASDAQ. So I do look sometimes at the Qs for direction because pretty much as the NASDAQ goes, that's how the S&P 500 is going to go. Sometimes they diverge, sometimes, because there are 490 other stocks in that index. Oh, nice. Here we go, guys. Let's get a test of this overnight high. Hopefully this isn't a fake out. There is some volume on this candle. I like that. If we bounce here at the overnight high, I'm not going to take it. You see what it's doing? It's really holding this line. And you know, guys, I say this almost every day, but this is why I put these lines on here. I do, because we almost always have some sort of reaction to these overnight highs, overnight lows, yesterday high, yesterday low. We almost always have a reaction at these levels. So that's why I always keep them on my chart. And here's a reaction. So we did see this coming down. We tagged it on volume, and then boom, even more volume on the reversal. So here's a little push up. If this continues to move up, I would look at calls at the 747 level. We don't have the MACD rolling up yet. This is a really fast little move here. Tatiana, very resourceful. Thanks, Tatiana. I've never been the mechanical type. I'm just not good at it. My daughters are great at it, so they're very sweet and they usually help me. But every now and then, I'll figure one or two things out. I have no deceptions about my strengths and weaknesses. No misunderstandings. Okay. Coming back down. Now, if we break down through this overnight high, I might consider the put. But that was a strong push here. Look at that volume. Do you see it? That volume bar? It's a pretty strong push, pretty strong bounce right off of that overnight high. So let's see what we get. Right now it's range. It's just sideways between this high and this level. So we got to wait. They're just making us wait. And it's been nothing but teeny, itty bitty little moves today. We really haven't gone very far, very fast. That's for sure. Switch it up to our cues. I was talking about using the cues as kind of a leader. And lately, the last few days, also looking at NVIDIA. All right, cues definitely also getting a bounce here at this level. Trying to give us a bounce. We're getting some conflicting signals. The VIX is kind of saying, the VIX is actually in a pennant, in a triangle. Do you see it? Let's zoom out a little bit and you'll see what I'm talking about. So we've kind of got this, these lower highs, meaning as the VIX comes down, the market should be coming up. So we're making these lower highs, but now the last few minutes, we've made some higher lows. So we're kind of in the point of a triangle here. VIX is going to decide which way it's going to be moving. Right now, looks like VIX wants to break to the upside. So let's see what we get. If VIX breaks to the upside, market breaks to the downside. Right now, the VIX has been trending down with the market trending up. So right now, VIX telling us we might want to move up. Let's see what we get. And again, VIX has really been pushed down. So we've spent, like I said, a lot of time in that 17-18 zone, and it really has been pushed down into the 16s, which is kind of a new development. So we would expect to see the market climb, which it certainly did today. All right, VIX still wants to creep up here potentially. And these are, as I often like to say, 90% of trading is patience. It's waiting. And so these are the times when we just have to wait. You can see if you zoom out a bit, you can see just nothing but a range here. You don't want to trade this range as a scalper. You just don't want to, because this is what chops you up. You don't want to be in here while this thing just moves sideways. They're just going to take your money. They're just going to take your money. So in these moments, we've just got to be patient. We've got to wait for the range to break, and pour yourself a cup of coffee, take a deep breath, pay some bills, and keep an eye on the chart, because at some point it will break out. We just don't know when, and we don't know which direction. So that's what we're waiting on. In the meantime, let me call up, let's look at NVIDIA again real quick. Talk about sideways, right? Look at that. Oof. It's very sideways. Hit a low of 215. The recent swing high sitting at 218. Just kind of back and forth in this range so far. Right, Craig, what was the process you went through to find the compilation of indicators you use that trigger the trade? Great question, Craig. For the most part, I'm looking for some basic things to happen. I want to see the MACD roll over. And when I say roll over, what I mean is change colors. Roll over the zero line. This pink line is the zero line. So we just talked about the MACD earlier. Red bars are when the MACD line is below the average line up here. Those are red bars. Green bars are when the MACD line is above the average line. Zero line is flat. So I want to see the MACD roll over. That's one thing. That's one of the main things I want to see. I also want to see where we are in relationship to the VWAP. So here's the VWAP. Remember, that stands for volume weighted average price. It's nothing more than a moving average that takes into consideration volume. That's really all it is at the core. It's just a moving average and it takes into consideration volume. So if we get volume, you'll see the average pop a little bit more, right? So we got a little volume here. We got a little upward trajectory. But look at the VWAP today. By and large, pretty flat. It is giving us a small upward movement here, but by and large, it's pretty flat. So I'm looking at where we are relative to the VWAP. So I'm looking at the MACD. Where are we relative to the VWAP? If we are over the VWAP and the VWAP is trending up, then we've got to be really careful with any kind of counter trends. So I'm always cautious there. So I'm looking at the VWAP. Then I'm looking at just price direction, right? What are the moving averages saying? This is a 21, this is a 50. What are the moving averages saying? Well, right now they're saying up, right? The 50 is pointing upward. The 21 is kind of going sideways. So the 21 could start to, for all the direction at the moment is up. So I'm looking at the MACD, I'm looking at the VWAP, I'm looking at the direction of the moving averages. I will check the volume. That volume isn't a make or break for me. You can still, like I said earlier, you can still make money on low volume. We don't care. We don't care. All we care about is what direction price is going. But volume can tell us a little bit about what big money is thinking, right? So here's the volume growing on this bar. This bar is starting to test the overnight high. That's the other thing, Craig. As you know, I'm always checking levels. Where is our overnight high? Where is our high of day? Where is our low of day? Where is our overnight low? Where are the major support levels, right? SPX level 7,500. Those are levels I'm always keeping in the side view mirror. And then I'm also looking at the leaderboard, who is leading, what direction is the move, who's the leader. And then I'll take into consideration our volume on the option chain. So there's quite a few things I'm looking at to place a trade. And sometimes there is news coming out. Sometimes there are earnings coming out, or FOMC, or President Trump might be giving a speech. All of these things factor into my thought process for taking a trade. So it's a great question, but there are always like quite a few things going through my head at any given time. And that's just kind of a summary of what those things might be. Great question, Craig. Yes, but why did you pick VWAP, MACD, etc. as your indicators? That is a great question. My journey has been long, a journey of 1,000 miles, I'll tell you. I started way back, way back as a, uh, a day trader and a scalper trading options. I jumped right into trading options in the very beginning. And I have spent years, and I'm not kidding, I've spent years looking at indicators and creating a system that works for me, and back testing years and years and years and years. And I still back test and I'm still tweaking my system. But these are the indicators that seem to have the best success rate, in my opinion. I'm always open to looking at new indicators. There are brilliant people out there building stuff, and I love that. So I'm always open to looking at new indicators. But for what I've developed in my style of trading, these are the indicators that seem to have the highest success rate, and none of them stands, on their own. I think the MACD is maybe a 70% win rate if you just look at it all by itself. Moving average crosses even less. So you really have to, what I've developed is just using them in combination with my other technical chart skills. All right. Dan's saying that Tesla pushing up. And how long from when you first started were you consistently profitable? Now, Dan, that is a great question. That is a really, really great question. I honestly did not become profitable until 2019, 2020, right around COVID. And that was the year that I first tried to live on trading. That was so I had gone through a tough divorce in 2015, really set me back financially quite a bit. And I had been, Ubering and waiting tables and still raising my minor children. And so really did set me back. And, as I was kind of going through that, I never gave up trading, but I was doing it on the side as I could. Waiting tables was a choice that I made because in my previous life, I believe it or not, guys, I used to be in IT back in the day, right? Trust me, I'm a dinosaur. Back in the day when IT was kind of a newer thing, I was in that world, and I was a corporate executive, and I left that to raise my kids, became a stay-at-home mom. Long story short, I got knocked on my butt during the divorce. My career had that bus had left the station. Computer world had moved on without me. And so, just waiting tables was something I fell onto to raise my kids and to still be able to trade during the day. So I was trading during the day, waiting tables at night, trying to figure it out. And of course, then COVID happened. And at that point, I had to make a decision and try to take my itty bitty little account at the time and a little bit of unemployment money and try to make it work. And that's when I kind of crossed over. And I'll tell you, there were some bitter tears, bitter tears. And I've got some sad stories, sad stories of, during that time, my mother passed in 2019. She left me a little bit of money. It wasn't much. It was maybe 30,000. I put it in the market. I was trying at that same time. I was trying to do my own thing, and I blew it. I blew it all. And here's what. Oh, I curled up in a ball for 3 days and cried because I blew that whole $30,000 in a day. And you know how I did it? Averaging. I knew that I knew this trade was going to go in my favor, and I averaged that whole account to nothing. And that was rough. I literally did fall into a depression for about 3 days. That was pretty hard because, I had all the emotion of losing my mom and then blowing the little bit of money that she had left. I felt it was rough, guys. But I'll tell you all that to say, here's the one thing and studies show this too. success hinges not so much on all the things we would think, right? Talent or intelligence or those things matter. But do you know what success studies show success really hinges on? It hinges on grit, just the ability to not quit, the ability to continue in the face of relentless setbacks. And so that's my encouragement to you guys. Keep at it, right? I know some of you, I know a lot of you personally, I know some of you are really going through some rough times and trying to make a living, to be, nights when I'm sure that you cried tears. So I would say that just don't quit. You'll get it. So it was shortly after that time that I kind of dusted myself off and really went back to the drawing board and really I had my system defined, but I wasn't using it. It was my emotions that was messing me up at the time. And that's kind of the turning point for me when I finally was able to master my emotions. And trust me, I still fail at that. I still make some bad decisions in trading every now and then. Those emotions creep in, but that was really the turning point. So you guys got to hear my whole backstory. Thanks for listening. And my hope for you guys is that you just continue with it. Keep learning. Manage your capital. Don't do what I did. Don't blow your whole account in one. Your capital, protect your capital, and keep at it. Don't quit. That's my encouragement. All right, guys. Craig, great hope for the rest of us. Craig, you're a great trader. You're doing wonderful. Val, thanks for sharing. Great to hear your story. Thank you, Val. I appreciate you. Dan, my mom raised me and my brother is a waitress. It's not easy. High respect for your journey. Thanks, Dan. What a sweet thing to say. And SF girl, I'm in a similar boat. Oh, I feel you. I feel you. I feel you. My hopes and prayers are with you for sure. I understand how that is. All right, we are back to the overnight high again. We have not been able to break through it yet, but we're getting some downward movements. The MACD is still, it's been red for a long time, but it's starting to brighten up a little bit here. Let's see what our VIX is doing. Oh, you know what, Craig? I listed off all of my indicators. VIX has become increasingly important to me in my trading. So VIX is a big one. All right, NVIDIA still floating here. Kind of floating along this sideways path. No break yet. No break of this overnight high. Just nothing but range right now. My suspicion, and I'm not going to trade on this, but my suspicion is we could get a pop. We could get a pop at some point, a really fast push upward. That's my suspicion. Doesn't have to happen. We definitely could drop as well. All right, tiny little break of the overnight high coming down. I'm really cautious here. We've been in this very tiny downward slant, but I'm cautious. Sometimes I call these sucker candles. Sometimes I'll throw a candle out there just to sucker you in. I'm not sure I believe the downward move. It's not even really downward. It's more sideways. So again, no trade for me while we're in this range. That was a little bit of a sucker candle. We could be coming back down again, but I really want to see this line break decisively, right? Not this, not these wicks here. I want to see a decisive break or a good bounce to the upside. Our VIX is dropping. We're about to make a new low of day on the VIX. Guys, I went 13 minutes over. See what you get for getting me talking. All right, Daniel. Hedge fund manipulation, sell it off to buy it back on the cheap. Very possible. Looks to me, like I said, my guess is a pop up to the upside, but we got to wait and see. At this point, I'm waiting for this range to break. But that does bring us not complaining about going over. Thanks, Craig. We didn't even take a trade today. But that's what happens sometimes. And actually, a lot of times at this time of the day, that can be the situation where we just kind of get this sideways slop for a while. And trust me, you're way better sitting on your hands than you are trying to trade this slop. It's no fun. But that being said, I just want to wish you all a fantastic long weekend. We will not be back here on Monday. So enjoy your friends and family. And, if you've got a little time, go back and do some back testing and work your strategies. That's going to make a difference for your trading. If you've got a strategy you trust, don't trade emotionally. That's going to help you the most. But other than that, enjoy your weekend. Have a good time. We'll be back on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Thanks, guys, so much for being here. This is such a great place, and I love trading with you all. Have a great weekend. Oops, Daniel, you have a tip jar. Buy more time. You guys are way too kind to me. I appreciate you so much. All right, we'll be back again on Tuesday. Enjoy your weekend. Have a great one. Bye for now.